First for the motion is Douglas Murray. Founded the Centre for Social Cohesion, which was integrated with the Henry Jackson Society, described by some as a right-winger. He's also the author of several respected books, including Neoconservatism, Why We Need It. Your time starts now.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be back in Athens, and can I particularly thank Intelligence Squared Greece for inviting me back. First of all, I should just lance a potential boil, I think, that may be present. It's not going to be my contention tonight. I don't think it's going to be my side's contention that immigration is only a bad thing, that it only brings negatives. That is not what I believe, and it's not what I'm going to argue tonight. Of course, immigration has historically and can still bring some good things. It's also important to make the following point. The immigration debate, as the short film, which is much in support of the other side's case tonight that you've just seen, has demonstrated, is forever mixing up issues. Legal and illegal immigration, for instance, are totally separate things. The law is on one side and not on the other. Economic migration is one very distinct thing and very separate, for instance, from asylum. It is my belief that Europe should remain open to asylum seekers, that people who are genuinely fleeing persecution in other places should be able to find a sanctuary in Europe. So that is not one of the things that this side is going to be arguing against tonight. Of course, there has been some immigration across history on our continent. There have been Huguenots, Jews in Britain, we had Ugandan Asians. All of these things have gone on for many years, but not at all on the scale which we have seen in recent years. Let me give you a couple of figures just from the country I know best, my own, and give you just two examples. It's forever said in Britain, well, we've always been a nation of immigrants and so on. That is at best a lie. After 1681, we're always told about the Huguenots. After 1681, 50,000 Huguenots entered Britain. That was over the course of decades. By the late 1990s, that was about 2 months' immigration into Britain. In the early 1970s, another case that's often and widely given, Idi Amin, of course, famously expelled the Ugandan Asians. Britain rightly took a large number in. We took about 30,000 in. 30,000 in that period. 30,000 people was 6 weeks immigration by the 1990s. So we are talking about a scale that is totally different from anything that has gone before. And there's an additional point. All the politicians have got it wrong. All of them. All of their predictions have been wrong. Every time they have made a pronouncement about this, it has been wrong. In my country, we were told that when Poland and Polish workers were going to be allowed to come in, the Labour government said it'll be a few thousand, 650,000. That is an enormous magnitude to get something wrong, even for government. The recent census that's just been published at the end of last year in Britain demonstrated this. People who identify, after this massive period of mass immigration, people who identify themselves as white British people are now a minority in their capital city of London. We cannot expect that this will not have political consequences, and we cannot expect that people across Europe aren't going to feel something about that. If you become a minority in your own city, you are going to feel something about that. Of course, there are not only bad things that come from this, but there are some distinctly bad things that come from it. Just this morning, the papers have shown in Britain that 28,000 Romanians in the UK have been held for crimes in the last 5 years. 28,000. There are only 68,000 Romanians in the country. Anyone who pretends that that isn't a problem has to address figures like that. It isn't nothing that almost half of the Romanians in the UK have been detained at some point in the last 5 years on criminal charges. We have the problem, additionally, when migration happens at this speed, of the problem of integrating people. I wish it were possible to integrate people. I think it is possible to integrate people into Europe. But there is no way you can do it when you have this speed and this scale of migration. That is not when you get integration, that is when you get parallel communities and parallel lives. Finally, in recent years, some European politicians have woken up to this. Chancellor Merkel woke up to it. President Sarkozy, even Prime Minister Cameron, woke up to this and admitted that something had gone wrong, but they don't know what to do about it. This, I would contend, is bad for us. Bad for us for a range of reasons. Firstly, let's just take the example that is now lusciously argued across Europe, that we need mass immigration because we get, for instance, the people who work in our national health service. We're always told, you get doctors, you get high-end skilled workers. Of course that's true. Of course it's true in part. But do you ever think, when you make that argument, what the corollary of it is? Yes, you might get a very well-trained doctor from Africa. Where would you rather that a well-trained doctor from Africa was doing their best work? In the NHS in London or in Africa where they're needed most? This is an unselfish point. I think we have been selfish in recent years. We have thought that it was perfectly acceptable to hoover up the world's talent, and in particular the third world's talent, and to think that that would have no impact on the countries that they were coming from. One other side, we often hear the low-end labour market, the opposite end, the low-end labour market issue. We're told we need immigrants because they will do the jobs that we will not do. How much of an indictment is that on our societies that people can continue to argue that? There are jobs that we Europeans cannot do or that are beneath us. No job should be beneath us. If we need street sweepers, we sweep the streets. We don't import people from other countries to do it. It's an appalling habit we have got into, and we need to wean ourselves off this habit of mass migration. It is the right, I would contend, of European people, just like people from everywhere else in the world, to have an identity. To have an identity, to be able to be proud of it, to be able to wish to protect it, and not to be called names, including the worst names going, for having that identity and wishing to protect it. You will hear tonight, I make a prediction here. I'm not a politician, I can afford to do it. I make a prediction. The other side will tell you that nothing can be done. That mass migration is something which we're just going to have to live with. That it is impossible to deal with. I think this is dangerous. Very, very dangerous. It is a dangerous thing to say when public opinion across Europe wants something to be done, that nothing can be done. Democracies and democratic governments and classes have to respond to the desires of the people. They have to address them and they have to do something about it. We have to end the era of nothing can be done. If this is not dealt with by the mainstream, if this is not dealt with on the centre-left, on the centre-right, by people in the mainstream of politics, this territory, this ground will be given over to extremists. I very much hope that is not done. I think that we have the chance still to deal with this in a mainstream democratic way. I am not arguing, our side is not arguing that we slam, or we should slam, the door of immigration shut. I am certainly not arguing that we should lock that door. But at the very least, we need to give that door a firm but gentle push. Thank you.